Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of the podcast. This week I am joined by the wonderful Anelia Kuprina, and anybody who doesn't know Anelia, you will get to know her today. She is one of our incredible tutors and mentors. She has taught lots of classes with us here at Jewellers Academy. She actually used to teach in person with us at London Jewellery School as well when we had a space in Hatton Gardens. That's how we first met. And then she came along and taught lots of classes with Jewellers Academy. She teaches on two of the diploma programs, the diploma in fine jewelry and the advanced diploma. And now she is one of our master tutors on the master classes. So we thought we would invite her along to just share a bit more about her. She's had an incredible career so far. And if you see any of her work, it's difficult not to be amazed. She's very humble, so she won't like me saying all of this. But welcome, Anelia. I'm excited to kind of dive into your journey today.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Jess. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
And I'm very pleased to be part of the Jewellers Academy and all the new exciting courses that's coming up.
Very exciting. We're very excited about the master classes, yes. Which, just quick plug, if you do want to sign up, make sure you sign up before the 1st of October. So you have just a couple of weeks left, and definitely check them out. And if you're not quite at that level yet, then take a look because it might be something to aspire to in the future. So, Anelia, let's start at the beginning because you've been making jewelry for a while and you have your own business and you're teaching, you're doing all sorts of things. So, take us back to the very beginning of your jewelry journey. What did you always want to be a jeweler? Were you making as a child, or was there a moment where you suddenly thought, actually, I want to make jewelry? How did that happen for you?
That's a very interesting question. Yes, it was a very particular moment. And when I was quite grown up already, I was doing foundation I was doing foundation degree in art and design at Rochester Art College. And in the end of the year, different departments, they had the show, they were showing off their works, what students have done. And I did see the works of the jewelry diploma students there, and I was completely surprised by it. I was so inspired. I was amazed how is it even possible to turn like piece of metal into something so beautiful. There was like lots of beautiful stones, beautiful gems, and I was very impressed by the quality of the work that this department was demonstrating particularly. And so at that moment, I realized I want to be able to do something like that. I want to be able to turn metal and, just stones to something really beautiful and such a good quality work. So that was my turning point.
Okay, it's interesting because I agree about having that moment where it's like this is it, like the kind of aha moment. But for a lot of people, it's like more gradual. So it's always interesting to hear, how it happens. So you kind of saw these students' work and you were like, wow, how's that even possible? I want to do that. So what happened next? Did you sign up for a course, or was there like a follow-on degree from the foundation? What was your
Yes, I signed up for the degree course. I've done it for a few years. I graduated, and it was definitely the right path for me because I absolutely enjoyed it, every single moment being there. And we had a fantastic tutors. We had some technical assistants who've been working in Hatton Garden for a long time, so they were very hand-on people. They had like a wealth of experience, and they really taught us a lot of practical skills which were very, very useful to know and to learn.
And what was it like doing a degree in jewelry? Were you in the workshop every day? Yeah, did you have like fellow students you were learning from, tutors? And it sounds like the technical assistants were great.
It was a lovely course. I think we had a very nice balance of both design part. We had even, I can't remember exactly, but maybe something with history of art, linked with history of art, as well as the practical side. So for me, I really benefited from having all of that together because you get to know different areas. You get to understand how to put everything together. Like if you have your idea, you have to go through the design. You have to know the technical aspects of it, and you have to know how to, bring it to real life. How to do cost calculations, all that. So it was very, very inclusive course of all different areas, and it was fantastic. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So you did that for 3 years. And then what happened at the end of your degree? Did you go straight into working in the industry, or did you have a break, or yeah, what happened next?
I went straight to work, and I must say that it wasn't a very easy and straightforward path for me, because I was doing just what I could get. Because as a student, as a starting student, you probably know how difficult it is to get in the workplace, especially if you don't have much experience. So I started working for a very small company, wholesale company, and we were doing basic assembles, casting, cleaning, this sort of things. It wasn't very exciting, but it was very helpful for me to see how the industry works, at least that segment of the industry, because the jewelry industry is huge, and it's so many different ways that you can go. And so for me, it was interesting. It was my very first step.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's just fascinating when you're starting out, because like you said, it's such a big industry and you don't really know about it until you're in it. So, and even when you're in it, you might not necessarily understand like different areas. So I imagine you learned a lot, even just from cleaning up castings and being around other people and kind of networking and those kind of things. And how did you get the job? Did you apply for it? Did you have to do like a test, where you like had a test day, or like how did you get into it?
I actually got because someone recommended me there. They knew me as a student, and they recommended me to the people who own this company. And so I was lucky, but I did get a trial day. In any jewelry places where I worked, you do get to have a trial day, or sometimes even a few days, because it's difficult. You can say anything on your CV, but actually, they want to see how you work. They want to see if you're familiar with the equipment that they have, because different places, they have different equipment. So often they would ask you a question, or do you know how to use oxygen torch or something like that? So they never asked me about my grades, but it was very much, because I worked in the manufacturing, it was very much about practical skills, practical experiences.
Yeah, they wanted to see you in action and how you're going
Yes.
to help them with their tasks. And was it, because I always think this, because I've never worked at a jeweler's, or like, but I always think when you go to someone else's bench, even things that you can usually do, you're like, you suddenly can't do them because everything's different. Is it quite nerve-wracking at the beginning, because you're like, this torch is a bit different to mine, or this saw's a bit different to mine, and then
Yes,
you
yes.
kind of get into your flow and it's like, okay, I can do it now.
Yes, it's very stressful, Jess, you're right. And that's why sometimes you get 2 or 3 trial days, because the first day, like you said, you just have to get yourself familiar a little bit with the environment, with the big machinery, what they have. Quite often you have to bring your own small tools just to make your life easier, because obviously the tools are there, but you don't know where they are, you don't know in what conditions they are, and you want to do your work really well. So it's better to have your own little tools, like needle files, maybe even emery papers, because you don't want to be wasting your time making new ones there. The chances are they're very old. They get used very
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah. It's these little tricks though, isn't it? That like if someone were to go for a bench day or an experience, like a test day, it's like just knowing like, yeah, bring some of your own bits. And because you're right, there's nothing worse than like looking around a workshop trying to find something you don't even know. It's like being in someone else's kitchen, isn't it? You're like, I can cook,
Yes,
I don't know where anything is, and how do I get started?
absolutely.
You're nervous already. So okay, so you did your test stages, you got recommended, which is brilliant. And I think the networking is so important in the jewelry industry. Just, recommendations are huge, aren't they? And so you were working at this place for a while doing the castings and the cleaning up, and it's kind of like, earning your stripes, I suppose, and learning things. And then was there a point where you thought, okay, I'm ready for something else? Or how did you move on to the next job that you did?
Oh, it was easy. I was made redundant.
Okay, yeah.
Unfortunately, it happens. And for me, in the beginning, it happened a few times. So I had to keep going and applying for new places. It's not always with the recommendations. Sometimes I was just going on bench peg, or I can't remember where, it's been ages ago. I can't remember where I saw people advertise. And, you know, you just hope for the better. You submit your CV, you come for trial days. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then the next job that you did, was it also doing sort of similar, like cleaning up castings, or were there any differences? Did you move into more complex pieces? Because the pieces that you make now are incredible. So I wonder if there was kind of like a progression.
Yes, there was a progression, like with every job that I did, because this is something what I wanted to do. But I must say that the most things that I learned is when I started, when I got my tools and I was doing what I wanted to do myself. It was parallel to being employed, obviously, because you can't just. I mean, I was not in position to leave my employment and do what I want. So it's fairly recent for me that I'm finally at that stage. Uh, yeah, and I think it's a lot. You learn the most when you practice what you're interested in, because whenever you come to a workplace, they would specialize in particular techniques. They would produce a particular pieces, and that's what you're required to do. So there's not much room for creativity or for exploring things. So once you learn, and you know, the big company, they're quite slow. They would produce similar designs, or they have like a big machinery that they use, and they're not very keen on upgrading it like often, because it's very cost consuming. So
Yeah, so there's not huge creativity. You're given the job and you make that job, rather than now you get to work with clients and kind of choose the direction that you're going to take. Did you find it hard to work on someone else's vision, or to make someone else's designs, or were you quite used to that with your training? Because I imagine sometimes it's quite tricky to make something that's perhaps not what you enjoy, or how you would like to do it. Yeah, how did you find that?
well, but that's like rules of the game, isn't it?
Just do it. You just do
You
it.
just do it. You go to work, and yeah, I focus on things which you can learn there. You focus on technical things. I'm not there to feel inspired, if it makes sense. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I'm there to do my work. And it's very technical. It's production. So really, inspiration is not there.
yeah,
And I have tried many times to get a designer work, to be a jeweler designer. I couldn't get it anywhere. No one would have taken this. But I think that's my strongest point, surprisingly. So I thought I might as well just do it myself, you know, because I don't know why it was like that. So
very competitive maybe, or it changes all the time. The industry is constantly changing, but different periods there's demand for different things, aren't there? And I suppose a lot of people
yes.
want to design their own stuff, like in the design houses, but then they need lots of people to make them. And yeah, so it makes sense that you kind of were able to find those roles first. So you're working in these different spaces. Were there any places that we might have heard of, or any kind of ones that you really enjoyed?
You probably heard them, like most of them. They're all on my biography on my website. They're
Go check them out.
yeah, you can check them out. To be honest, I can't really separate like one or the other, because for me it's the whole experience, and you learn little things from every place where you work.
And for all of them, did you like see a job advert and apply for it, or did sometimes you get recommended, or like how did you transition between them?
My first job was recommended. The rest was just like my own initiative, because with the obviously they do ask for recommendations, so you need to have contacts of people who are happy to recommend you, who know you, but you have to keep going yourself. If you have a good connections, it's fantastic, because it's really makes your life a little bit easier. But if you don't, you still have to do it. So
Yeah, yeah. You just make it happen. You just keep going.
We just
And
make
I
it
think,
happen, exactly.
yeah, and I think, you know, knowing what you want really helps. Like you said, you just knew this is what you wanted to do. So there wasn't another option. So you just keep kind of moving forward and applying and, yeah, working in different spaces. And I know you've worked in a lot of the workshops in Hatton Garden. Were these all in Hatton Garden, or were they in different places? Did you move around a lot? What was that like?
I worked in different places. I worked in West End before going to Hatton Garden, and then my last 5 years probably of my career, I did different places in Hatton Garden, and that was very intense. It was very, it's enriched my experience by a lot because it's a very fast-paced production environment. You get different pieces. It's not about creativity, but it's about the exposure to different pieces, different materials. That's probably where I got the most of variety. Even when we talk about ring sizing, you can be sizing like wedding bands all the time, or you can be sizing all sorts, you know, from different like pieces from different era, like the most contemporary wedding bands, everything. In Hatton Garden, you get everything. You had to do everything. So it was interesting.
Yeah, you become very like multi-talented, I suppose, in all the things that you're working with. So I was going to ask that next, actually. Was it mostly like wedding rings, engagement rings, or were there some really interesting pieces? Did you make necklaces, brooches? And also, did you make things from scratch, or was a lot of it remodeling? Like, what was your what would usually come on your bench?
It was some of the bespoke work, but mostly it was repairs. Now in my own practice, I do a lot of handwork and remodeling. But actually in Hatton Garden, it was just like practical things. It was a workshop environment. So I didn't get much opportunity to design or to remodel, although I absolutely love it. I think it's great.
Absolutely. Cool. Okay, so at what point did you decide, okay, I'm done with all of this and I'm gonna start my own business? I know you mentioned that you'd already started doing that, I guess on the side, kind of like working on
Yes.
your own jewelry practice. Was it a gradual transition, or was there again a moment where you're like, okay, now I'm running my own business?
I think it was gradual because I was doing it along the way for quite a few years. Uh, I knew people. I was slowly like getting all the equipment that I needed, and then organically it was just a point that I thought, you know what, I have to do it myself. And also because I felt that, you know, I want to have a better balance in my life, because usually if you are working in the workshop, it's very long working hours and it's very intense. So I really wanted to have more time for myself. I wanted to be able to do what I want to do. I wanted to finally start using my own creativity to create pieces. And so that was my decision. That was when I made it. So that was when I made my decision to start to work for myself. And also I felt that you really have to give something 100%. Like if you want it to work, you have to give it 100%. It's very scary. And I know for a very long time, I wasn't in the position to do it. But there is a point where you just realize it and you just have to go. It doesn't, like, you don't know if it's going to work or not. But I just felt if I won't try, I just felt like I really have to try. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because, you
yeah.
know, I can always leave it and I can always go and work somewhere else. But I really felt that I have to give it a
Oh,
go.
yeah, and I'm glad that you did, because you know it's
Thank you.
awesome.
So am
It's
I,
awesome. Yeah, but I think you're right. I think it is scary to make that leap, especially when you're used to a certain path, like you have something that's maybe fairly stable or seems stable. And you think, well, I'm doing this and it's making money. And if I stop, I don't know if I'll make money, and I don't know when and how long. And I don't know if I'm going to get the clients and all these kind of things. But I think you're right. It's better to take that risk, and it's better to take that risk and it not work. But I think, like you said, if you give it 100% for long enough, it just does work eventually. But I think for our own sort of sanity and like self-purpose, it's like I have to go for it, and there's always a way. Where there's a will, there's always.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't just suddenly decided that, you know what, that's what I'm going to be doing, because I have been working. I knew what the problems that are coming. I had a little bit of my own clients, you know, it was very just a couple, but it gives you a little bit of confidence. So I wouldn't recommend just giving up everything like your day job like straight away and jumping into jewelry making. You still need to know a little bit what you're getting into. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, give yourself a bit of time. And yeah, you've been working in the
you
industry.
have yeah you have to think things through. It's not just like emotional decision at all. It wasn't like that.
No, no. And so throughout your career, you've also won a bunch of awards. Tell us a bit about those, any that you kind of remember and what they were for, and if you needed to apply for them. Yeah, just a bit about those.
Yeah, I think in the UK there are different competitions where, as a students, you can put your work, not just students, but even like established jewelers, where you can supply your work for competitions. And I think that's really great. First of all, it's really great for exposure, like to get your name out there, for people to start seeing your work. Mm, if you do get a prize, or if you get some award, if you win something, you may get some prizes, you know, like monetary prizes, or there are different incentives that you could get. So I would really encourage the students to take parts. The Goldsmiths Center, they do different competitions like every year, and you can check on their website what they are and the requirements, what they're asking for. And when I was a student, I did apply. For this Goldsmiths competition awards, and I won a couple of awards. One was for two, I think, 3D modeling presentation, and the other one, it was a production jewelry. To me, as being a student and winning this award, these two awards gave me a really boost of confidence in me. That was the first thing. I really enjoyed it. It was a fantastic ceremony to be there, to meet established jewelers, to meet really successful people who were there, who were giving us awards. Also, some of them, they were like money prizes, which were very, very needed at those times for me, like as a student. It was great to receive them. Yeah, it was just overall really fantastic experience. So I think for students, it's really, really great to take part in something like that.
Absolutely. And there's different categories, like you said, isn't there? So you were in the CAD, is it the CAD design category,
Yes,
but
yes.
also the manufacturing, and yeah, and amazing to win those
Yeah,
prizes.
they have so many different categories. I think it's about like 19 or 20. So you have a very good chance of winning something if you, if you read their brief and you work towards that. It's really amazing. It's really good.
Absolutely. Amazing. Well done.
Thank
Well
you.
done to you. And so tell us a bit about your business now today. So you do commissions, you do maybe repairs or remodels. Tell us about.
Yes, I have my little studio where I work. I work with Jewellers Academy.
Of course.
And yeah, for my own practice, I do all the jobs that normal jewelers do. I do all kind of repairs, alterations. I do a lot of bespoke work. I do remodeling. I'm very happy just to talk to people, to see what they have, if how I can help them. It's very interesting. Sometimes you get very interesting requests, and so I'm quite happy where I am now. And it's great to have my loyal clients. They keep coming back to me to order more work. And I'm very surprised about that, because I always thought that, if you're a jeweler, you would get maybe a person ordering things like one wedding ring in a lifetime from you. But actually, it's not like that, because people have different events that they have different celebrations. And, if you have good relationships with your clients, they will be coming back for more. So it's not just one engagement ring that they order from you.
I think
That
that's
was
an
interesting for
amazing
me.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think especially with fine jewelry, I find that like a lot of fine jewelers have maybe 100 clients in total, but they all come back every couple of years. And so every year they have maybe 30, 40, 50 or whatever people. And it's interesting when you see people who've been doing a fine jewelry business for maybe 10 years, like they don't even really promote anymore because they're just like, people just come to me now. And I think
Yes.
that's amazing to hear about, because when you're first starting, especially with fine jewelry, it can be really challenging to get those clients because it's, you know, it's building up that trust, isn't it? Like you said, before you even started your business, you had a couple, and that's the start. And, you know, and they might come every couple
Yeah.
of years for something. And then, you know, it might take a year to get, you know, 4 or 5 more people, and then each year you just have a few more people, and it gradually kind of builds and seems to create this sort of snowball effect where eventually it's, you know, a little bit easier in terms of the marketing and things. And I suppose when you're showing your work as well, like on social media, or in, you know, if you do open studios and things like that, people start to become aware of your work, and then they're like, wow, I really, you know, if I order a piece, I want it to be from you. And then it's just that long, slow game, isn't it? Of like, eventually they'll come to you when
Yes, yes. I
yeah.
must say, I still feel like it's very early days for me, because talking about marketing, talking about social media, like I do put things out, but I really feel that it's something that I could improve on. And I just don't get time for this.
We can't be perfect at everything, can we, Anelia? You do a pretty good job. You do a pretty good job. And I think your work very much speaks for itself as well. I'm actually wearing one of your pieces now from the master.
Yeah.
Probably can't see it. It's teeny on the video, but
I
yeah,
know which one it is, Jess.
you know
I
the
know which
one.
one
You
it
know
is.
the one.
Looks
Love it.
lovely.
Love it. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the masterclasses, because that's something exciting that we've been working on together. Well, you've been doing most of the work, but you know, we've been chatting about it. So I think we had a chat, gosh, I don't even remember when it was, maybe a year or so ago, and we were talking about doing masterclasses, and we were talking about, you know, big juicy stone settings and what can we do. And together, I think we kind of came up with this idea of decorative collets. And so tell me a bit about that for you. Do you do lots of collet setting? How did you find it to make the collets? Like, what was this project like to work on?
Um, oh yes, that was very interesting. That was very interesting because we decided to use those huge stones, different cuts, absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful colors. And that is a challenge on itself to work with a big stone. I think it's always a challenge for a jeweler. And having a large stone, it gives you the opportunity to create something really amazing, uh, amazing structure, amazing collet to put it in. Because you have
Yeah.
more surface area, you have a lot more room for creativity. And so we wanted to explore it a little bit and to show different ways how it can be approached. And obviously, we just showed you very little part, sort of like a foundation for it, because you can build on that, your own ideas, your own designs, and like the possibilities are endless there. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a lovely course. It has a lot of useful information. Hopefully you have a lot new information there too for yourselves. And yeah, it would be interesting to see what you come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can't wait to see what people do with this course, because I think, you know, it's so detailed and it's so different. And so many people have messaged me already and said, I just want one of those hexagon rings. Like, I
Oh,
just want one, because they are gorgeous. And anyone listening who's thinking, what are they talking about? Go and have a look at the page in the link, because you'll see the pictures. Karen Young has taken some incredible pictures of Anelia's pieces, and they're just gorgeous. So I was trying to remember the stones we used. I think we used like a teal moissanite. Maybe they were both moissanite, I can't remember, for the big, because we needed big stones, didn't we? It's quite difficult. It was
yes.
quite difficult to find a big giant hexagon stone for the ring.
Yes.
And then we matched that with like a kind of geometric sort of design, which was pierced out and was, you know, really kind of beautiful, and you show us how to set it and all the things. So and there's some challenges, aren't there, with working with a hexagon? It's quite new.
There were a lot of challenges. Yes, I would say with all of them. And I think it's due to the scale, because you can see very well, like if something is not going right, you can see it because it's very big. It's very big. It will be straight in
Nowhere
your
to
face.
hide.
Nowhere to hide, exactly. So we really were taking the time to do it. And when you work on something large, you have to allow a lot of extra time for any process that's involved. You have to allow a lot of time. That's something that you often forget, because you look at the thing, okay, yeah, that's just the stone setting, but you forget that the stone is 10 or 12 mil, and then it becomes the whole different time scale, the whole different story. And you have to be quite patient with it. And like, if you get tired, just give it time. Don't get frustrated. It really takes time.
Yeah.
Even for people who do, yeah, even for people
Yeah.
who set stones all the time, it's a separate thing. To work with the large stones is different. You have to
Yeah.
be
You're not just popping a
patient.
mill in somewhere. You're
Yes.
it's a whole kind of encasement that you're creating, a whole mount. And to be honest, this class is mostly mount making, isn't it? And we do cover the stone setting with the hexagon, but it's the large chunk of the class is the making of the mounts. And I think that's quite interesting for people, that mount making is a different skill to stone setting. And of course, lots of jewelers learn both, but for some stone setters don't do any of the goldsmithing or the mount making, and their one skill, which they do incredibly well, is to set the stone. And so, you know, it's interesting how the industry works and how it can be divided up in that way too. And I imagine you came across that in many of the jobs that you did as well.
Yes, yes. And so we were talking about mount making, it's the same, because the whole mount is almost like a piece on itself. It takes a lot of care and attention. It requires a lot of care and attention to make it look nice. But then it all pays off when it comes together. When you put the stone in, it really brings it to life.
Yeah, so satisfying. And then we did the Marquise earrings. So this is a matching pair. It's always challenging to get a matching pair, isn't it, of anything, I think, especially when
Yes, yes. Yeah, when you get stones, I would suggest, I know they're big, but if possible, if you're working on something where you need 2 stones, try to have maybe 3 or even 4, because the stones, they do crack. And especially if you have a piece that requires 2 stones, imagine you've done one earring that is perfect, and then in the very last moment you may crack the stone for the other one, and so you already have the mount for both earrings. It's a lot of time if you have to try and find another stone afterwards. If your budget allows, please get yourself just some spare stones, just in case, because most of stone dealers, they would accept it back. If you don't use it, they're more than happy to accept it from you.
Yeah, better to have too many and send them back than not have them. I suppose, especially when you're working on commissions or you're working to a deadline, you don't want to be stressed out at the last minute. If
Exactly.
yeah. And we talked about this a bit in last week's episode when we went into the masterclasses in detail, but you create these beautiful templates for the students to use with piercing out and creating the decorations within the collets, and also a space for them to create their own, which I think is really lovely, because you can start by, in a similar way to your career, start by following the way that you do it, and then have space to be like, how do I want to do it? How do I want to take these skills and put my own sort of mark on it? And I think in the course we actually start with the earrings, because they're a little bit, maybe slightly easier than the ring. I don't know. They're all challenging in their own way. So that was, a really lovely project to kind of work through. And then finally, we have the one that I'm wearing, the dome. So the dome was a really exciting one. And I think this is one that you kind of came to me and was like, oh, let's try this dome. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. What's that going to be like? Tell us a bit about your thought process behind the dome and what students can expect from that project.
Yes, so the dome pendant, I think it's the most challenging out of all the pieces that we're covering in this course, even more challenging than the hexagon ring, because you have to do piercing on the curved surface. And so in this course, we're gonna talk a lot about how to mark the curved surface, how to split the dome into different segments. You'll see what tools I'm using. You'll see the order in what we are doing, all that to create the beautiful collet.
Yeah, and it's so different, I think, the dome. Like, I don't know, I've not seen anything quite like it before. So yeah, I love it. And it's very comfy to wear. But I think you're right. It's more challenging because we're working on that curved surface. And like you quite rightly pointed out when you came to do the filming, you can't just put a flat design onto a curved surface because it will become
Yes.
distorted. So you can't just, when we're piercing something out, we can just stick something on, and then just cut around the template. But with a dome, with something more 3D, and I guess this is the case as well with rings for like galleries and under bezels, is there's different surfaces to be working with, and so learning how to work with the dividers, how to mark things out, and just how to think about things in that technical way. And I suppose that's where a lot of your design comes in as well, because like you said, your training is in not just making but also design, and I think that's one of the things that makes you quite unique, in that you're able to combine really technical skills, but also your design work. And also you're an amazing tutor. So, it
Thank
comes
you, Jess.
together. Um,
Thank you.
Brilliant. Yeah. So we're really excited about the masterclass, as you can tell. And we're very lucky to have you, Anelia, as one of the tutors. And you're going to be doing some live sessions as well with the students, aren't you? So
Yes.
people will come and get to meet you, and also to ask you questions, because they may need some support as they're working through these projects. What do you reckon?
I'm very much looking forward to the to our polls.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that's really nice about the community, is that, because it's one thing just saying, here's the technique, off you go. But actually, especially with the masterclasses, they're so challenging if you've never done them before. And I know, you're an incredible jeweler, but even when you're making the samples, it's challenging. It's challenging to work everything out and get everything right and do it under a time pressure. So I think that the students are going to really value having you there as their mentor and support. So to finish us off, thank you so much for coming and sharing more about yourself and more about the masterclasses. What advice would you give, given your range of your career and all the things you've kind of learned to date about the industry and making and following your passion? What advice would you give to people listening, that's kind of words of wisdom from you? No pressure, no pressure.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. What I would say that you need to believe in yourself. You need to believe in that you can learn things, because no one was born a great jeweler. All people learn their skills. So you can learn things. Even if you're not good at something at this moment, you can become really good at it later. Just focus what you're really interested on, because it's so many different techniques in jewelry, so many different materials. I would say just do something that talks to you, something that makes you feel like emotional, positive. Just basically, try to find your way. But to learn the general skills is a really good starting point, because you find them useful anywhere. How different tools work, what tools you use for what tools are good for certain practices. It's very, very important to know that, because once you have that knowledge, you can apply it to your own area of expertise, or whatever you feel like inspired of doing. But you need to have those basic skills to be able to move forward. So
Yeah, love that.
yeah, just keep practicing. Yeah, I suppose that's
Yeah, keep practicing, follow what you enjoy. And I love that you said just believe that you can learn, because I think that's so true. Sometimes we look at other people and think, well, they're just really good, but nobody was good to begin with. We're all a beginner at some point, and it's putting the work in, it's putting the hours in. And yeah, the more people I ask this sort of question to, the more I hear the same sort of answer, which is just practice. Just keep practicing, just keep making. And yeah, we would love to have you guys come on the course and take part, but it's not for everyone, because it is a kind of more advanced course. So there's lots of other programs as well that we can help support you guys with your learning. And Anelia, if people want to come and check you out more and learn a bit more about you and come and see some of your beautiful work, where can they find you online?
okay. I've got my Instagram account. It's Anelia Jewellery. I have my website, aneliajewellery.co.uk. I have a Facebook page, which is not very active. Because I usually put all my things on my personal page. Now it's my jewelry page. I lost all my personal stuff to work, so
It's become your life. Work has become your
it's
life.
become my life. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we understand. We understand. Okay, so Instagram and website, we'll make sure we put a link to those in the show notes. Go and give Anelia a follow if you're not following her already. Go and say hi. And like I said, I'll put a link in the show notes to the masterclass as well. Go and check it out. We've had an open day recently as well. So if you want to watch the recording of that and learn more about the classes and see some beautiful pictures of them, then do go and have a look. But thanks again, Anelia. Well done on all the incredible things you've achieved so far. And I can't wait to see what's next for you. And we'll see everyone on another episode very soon.
Thank you very much, Jess. Lovely talking to you, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, great. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye.